Every life has equal value, and that's the guiding belief behind the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It underscores a focus this week for the world's richest charitable fund, improving women's and children's health in the world's poorest countries. Ms. Gates will bring that message to one of the biggest gatherings of female leaders right here in New York City. It'll happen this evening. It's called the Women in the World Stories and Solutions Summit, sponsored by the Daily Beast and Newsweek. Ms. Gates joins us now this afternoon on Street Smart. Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about your latest initiative, and this is between the U.S. and the Norwegian governments. It's a $50 million pledge, and it's specifically focused on maternal and infant health. What do you hope to achieve with this initiative?
Well, there are so many children that die, about 4 million children in that first 28 days of life. And it's extremely inexpensive to save those lives. Sometimes it's just teaching a mother to breastfeed her baby right away and exclusively, or to keep that baby warm. So it's trying to get the cultural practices out that we know work and literally save babies' lives.
Where are you focusing these efforts regionally? Because I noticed that a lot of times you tend to focus places outside the U.S.
Yes, most of our spending, about 60% of the foundation's spending, is in global health, which is outside the United States, where so many of the medicines or the cultural practices that we know will save children don't happen. And in particular, we focus in 2 states in northern India, where a lot of these childhood deaths happen, and large countries in Africa, Nigeria and Ethiopia, for example.
Melinda, what do you find to be the biggest obstacle? I saw the piece that 60 Minutes did on you guys. You know, I've been to some of the emerging markets like India, and just kind of getting around and moving things around is a major task. What do you find is the biggest obstacle? Is it money, or is it a lot of other things?
Well, you have to have money. I mean, you have to be able to buy vaccinations for children, and sometimes they only cost 13 cents, sometimes they cost about $4. But if we use an alliance that we have, a public-private partnership, to procure those vaccines, pharmaceutical companies will make them, and the supply chain actually works in these countries to get vaccines out. It's amazing, but it does.
So how much are you talking about here as far as money? You committed $3 million for the first wave of grants to the Saving Lives at Birth program. How much does the Gates Foundation ultimately intend to spend on this?
Well, our whole commitment to maternal and child health, we've committed $1.5 billion over the next 5 years, and we're asking governments as well to come in and to help us invest in things like vaccines or these cultural practices that help save lives.
And that, you know, I wanted to because governments, how important is it that they are involved in what you guys are doing?
Fundamental, because all of philanthropy can do is be a catalytic wedge to try new innovations and to stimulate markets. But it's really government funding that has to buy a large number of vaccines or a tool that will work in the developing world.
Let me ask about, you know, that is a lot of money, $1.5 billion. And when we look at the problems here at home, an amazing amount of unemployment, a lot of poverty that could be dealt with, I think, from private money. Obviously, the public money isn't there right now. Why do you choose to focus internationally rather than choosing to deal with the problems in the U.S. first?
Well, we give away over $3 billion a year between our money and the money from Warren Buffett, and 30% of that, about 30%, actually is focused in the United States, and it's focused on the U.S. education system, because we feel to have equality in the United States, every kid should have a great education. So we're really trying to fix the public education system with that money.
And I know we're going to talk about education a little bit more in a moment. I'm thinking a little bit about our audience. I mean, they're so financially founded, if you will. I mean, when you focus on maternal and the health of children, I mean, what is the potential payoff to the local economies?
It's huge, because if you look at these emerging markets and you say, we export goods to these markets, and yet if you save a child's life for a few dollars, which is all it costs, then their mother knows they can feed that child, they can educate the child, the child then participates in the economy, and ultimately we export.
In terms of what you guys do, do you see that follow through?
Absolutely. You see countries like Brazil and India have moved up in terms of their economic wealth because they got their health statistics, their health things right in most places. India still has a few places in the north where they still have to do that, but that's when you see an economy turn, or like South Korea.
And this is what you're talking about, or what former First Lady Laura Bush is talking about when you are lobbying, or when she is lobbying Republicans not to cut foreign aid, right? Because this is important to you as well.
Yes, so let me be clear. The foundation cannot lobby. We don't. But what we do talk to congresspeople about is the importance of foreign aid, and that we're seeing it make a difference. 20 million children used to die in 1960 under the age of 5. Now it's 8 million children because of these investments, and they're really small. It's only 1% of the U.S. government budget. So Bill and I are trying to say, we're willing to invest our money because we know it's a great investment. Please invest alongside with us.
Do you think they get it? I know you guys can't lobby, but do you think they get it, especially when you think of everything that's going on in the budget constraints at this point?
You know, especially the Congress people who've traveled in the developing world, they really get it. And they get that this is not a line item in a budget. This is a child's life for a few dollars. And when you talk to them that way, they say, help educate my constituency. We care enough about our neighbors at home. We know they would care about these lives if they really understood.
And I think that's a great point. Having reported on emerging markets for a lot of time, it's not until you go there do you really understand what they're up against on so many different levels.
Melinda Gates, co-founder of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the world's richest charitable fund. She is here in New York tonight for the Daily Beast and Newsweek's Women in the World Summit, one of the biggest gatherings of female leaders. And you were in Boston introducing the president on Tuesday. When you were doing that, you said education is the top priority for the foundation in the U.S. Also a very difficult nut to crack, as we were talking about here during the break. What would you change in the U.S. educational system? What are your list of top changes to make there?
I would put an effective teacher in every single classroom. You know, we all inherently know when your kid gets that great teacher. Why isn't it that we make sure there's a great teacher in every single class? And that's the thing that we've got to do in the U.S. education system, and make sure that we help teachers learn their craft of teaching, become the best, and are evaluated against that, and help them, show them how to do even better. Because there are lots of great teachers out there, but we've got to spread that practice.
How do we do that, though?
I think we build an evaluation system that doesn't say 98% of our teachers are great. It really says, okay, which ones are doing well? How do we take those master teachers and help them teach the rest? And how do we look at the ones who maybe have been in the profession a little bit too long and aren't as energetic about teaching
I
these
don't want to get
days?
too political, but in terms of the role of unions and so on and so forth, I mean, has that kind of run its course when it comes to teachers, in your view, or what do you think?
Well, that's really a state issue, and you're seeing that it's very difficult in certain states how they're going with the unions. All the places that the foundation is working, we are working with the teachers union. They want to improve. Randy Weingarten's been an incredible partner on this for the AFT, and I think that they need to be part of changing the system. The teachers want to get better. They're in the art of teaching because they want to do well by their students, but we need to engage them in that process. We can't have a system for them that's capricious in any way.
You know, there's so much debate about money spent on education and whether it's what you really need to do, throw more money at the problem, but I can't believe that teachers wouldn't want to get paid more. Do you work with other foundations? Can you work with corporate America to help reform the U.S. education system?
Well, I think corporate America is involved in certain places, usually in their own backyard, in reforming education. And I think there are a lot of different places to tackle this. One of the best things some corporations do is really work on the technology piece. We can supplement great teaching with great online lessons, the best physics little 6-minute video on gravity or motion. Then you turn the teacher more into a coach, where they're teaching, but they're taking the very best teachers teaching calculus and algebra, and they're supplementing their lessons. A lot of the great technology companies can stimulate software developers and educators to get those things online, and they are doing that.
And your foundation, actually, didn't you guys recently make an investment in an education technology company? I'm going to mispronounce it. Integral?
Correct.
Integral. I mean, so they made an education app on Facebook. What do you think is the role of social media, Melinda, at this point in terms of education?
Well, I think social media is one more way that people can engage and can talk about what's working in their community. Both parents talking about, hey, my teachers are engaging me and my principal in this way. They want a slightly longer school day. I'm for that. But it's also getting the teachers in community together to talk about, hey, I just saw a great teacher on teaching Algebra 2. Let's make sure I share this with the other teachers teaching mathematics in my building. And I think those communities help spread and disseminate the best practices.
How much of it do you think is the community versus actually spending more money on it? I mean, I was talking with a kid from Beijing last week, and he was saying he gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to school and doesn't come home until 6 p.m. at night when he sits down to do homework until he goes to bed. I mean, that's just not what American students do.
Yes, and I think we need to look at how many hours the kids are in the classroom. Some of the great public schools are starting to realize they need an extra hour in the morning so that the kids can plan and work with their teacher for the day, or an extra hour in the afternoon to really work on homework and those tough problems. We all have parts in school where you went through and, you know, calculus was hard. I needed some extra help. We need that time in the school day. And great schools are starting to to do that.
We've heard President Obama talk about education, how important it is to America staying competitive and staying ahead. I mean, you agree that this is crucial for us kind of keeping the edge going forward?
Absolutely. We have to educate our citizens to be a great democracy, whether that's to go on and work in the workforce, but go on and get a 2-year degree, go on and get a 4 degree. It is fundamental to this democracy that we educate everybody well, not just the top 10%.
Do you think that message is going to be easy to spread in these times? I mean, we're looking at cutting everywhere we can, right? And you're going to see certainly cuts in education. That's why you see the problems in Wisconsin and Ohio. I mean, it's a tough time to spread this message.
It is a tough time, but I think in tough times are when you make tough choices. And I think we're having the right discourse now as a nation. We're not talking anymore about, okay, should class sizes be smaller? We know that under a certain level, class size doesn't make any difference. You could add 2 more kids back to the classroom, but keep that great teacher. Don't furlough the great teachers. Those are the discussions we need to have in tough
And you really feel
times.
like we're having those discussions, because I think about education has been a problem not just last year, not just 2 years ago. It's been a problem for a while here in America. You feel like that we're finally having the right things being discussed?
I think we are, and I think we have a lot of hard work ahead of us, but I think the reforms that you're seeing in places like New York City or in Pittsburgh or in Hillsborough, Florida, I think they're starting to make a difference and they're starting to catch on.
Do states take the lead, or does it have to come from the federal government in your view?
Well, I think the states have the biggest role to play in this. I think the federal government can set goals and can stimulate change, and you've seen that through Race to the Top for sure. But the hard work is at the state level to really figure out what they can implement in their state. And does it take policy changes or changes within their districts often?
What have you got ahead of you tonight here in New York?
Well, I'm going to the Women in the World conference tonight to really talk about the difference that I see women making in the world, all over the world, from the places that I travel, and I'm really excited to get to do that.
Well, you certainly are one of them. Thanks so much for joining us. Melinda Gates of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.